Our regular meeting of this Ann Arbor Planning Commission. For detailed information on meeting procedures, please review the full printed meeting agenda provided. Just a quick note for commissioners, please do pull the mic towards yourself as you do speak, and please light them green. And please bear with us to everybody. We are testing out new tech tonight, so if there's any issues, please bear with us. With that, Ms. Kelly, will you please call the roll?
Certainly. Chair Lee.
Here.
Vice Chair Abrams.
Here.
Secretary Weish.
Here.
Commissioner Mills.
Here.
Commissioner Hammerschmidt.
Here.
Councilmember Dish.
Here.
Noting with details to follow, Commissioner Clark has submitted her resignation. Commissioner Weatherby.
Here.
Commissioner Adams.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Moving on to approval of the agenda, may I have a motion? Commissioner Weatherby and Commissioner Mills. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the May 7th, 2024 meeting? Commissioner Abrams, Commissioner Weatherby. Any discussion of the meeting's minutes? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. We're going to move right on to section number 5. Next up are reports to the Planning Commission from Council Member Dish.
Good evening, everyone. So the budget passed last night, and it contains an additional FTE for planning to hire a permit coordinator, which will be helpful for smaller developers. We've been asking for this. We leveled up the third of the three level 1 the third of the 3 positions that had been approved at level 1. It's leveled up to 5, so that should give you a little bit more capacity. There were a lot of other things we did, but those were 2 things that matter to you. And then we also approved the R1D rezoning for Riverside. Yes. Okay. And I don't think that there's lots in that budget. It's a beautiful budget. And we also threw you a little bit of dough to hire a consultant to start doing some of those. Remember the 4 lines that could be 20 for the economic development? We threw in some money for a consultant. So, steaming ahead.
Thank you. Planning Manager. Ms. Kelly.
I was waiting for permission.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Thank you very much for the budget amendments. We truly appreciate that. In addition to the 1.5 FTE that will be coming our way to augment our staff and boost our capacity, we will also have a dedicated vehicle for site inspections. This is going to really help our team. And I am reminding you on behalf of Manager Leonard that next Tuesday evening from 7 to 9, the Comp Plan Subcommittee will be held. You should have a calendar hold for that. Noting, as I did during the roll call, that Commissioner Clark has submitted a formal resignation. And Manager Leonard and I will be looking at our pool of submissions for the Planning Commission and hoping to advance some new names to the Administrator's Office and City Council when we have a chance to see who we have available. It was shared over email, just a quick pulse check, who would be available for your July meeting. And now with Commissioner Clark's resignation and the folks who will be out of town, we are recommending that you cancel your July meeting. So look for a motion and a line item for that on your first June agenda. Last but not least, from the manager report, I would like to introduce new planning services intern Cecile Landra Hernandez, who is here with us this evening. Cecile, why don't you turn on your microphone and give a quick introduction?
Okay. Hi, everybody, and thank you so much for having me, and thank you for that introduction. I'm the new planning services intern. My name is Cecile, and I'm a senior at Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, Ohio, studying civil engineering and environmental policy. So I'm really excited to join the team for the summer.
And thank you for your assistance with note-taking this evening. That concludes the manager report.
Thank you. Do other commissioner officers or committee liaison have anything to report? Seeing none, we're going to move on. Written communications are included in today's packet. We're going to move on to our first public comment. This is an opportunity for persons to speak up to 3 minutes about an issue that is not listed as a public hearing on this agenda. We'll first call on individuals present to address the commission, then remote participants. To speak during this public hearing remotely, please press star 9 if listening by phone or use the raise hand feature if viewing through the web link. And for phone access, please call 877-853-5247 and enter meeting ID 977-6634-1226. City staff will select callers who raise their hand using the last 3 digits of the phone number or by name if available. Now you'll hear an automated announcement saying that the host is allowing you to speak, and when speaking, please move to a quiet area so that we can hear you clearly. For either method of participation, please state your name and address at the beginning of the comments. And is there anyone present that would like to speak at this time? Mr. Garber.
Thank you, Chair Lee. It's nice to be with the Commission tonight. I'm Ken Garber, 28 Haverhill Court. Is now the appropriate time to talk about 601 Mary Court? There's no public hearing for that pre-PUD, right?
That's technically correct because the pre-PUD conference does not have a public comment. Mix Kelly? Yeah.
That is true. However, I think this first opportunity is for issues that are not listed as a public hearing. Okay, I think you're good.
I can go ahead?
Yes.
I mean, I don't have much to say because I haven't seen the presentation. I've just looked at a few at the application. But as you know, any PUD must demonstrate public benefit, and I'm sure you'll be asking a lot about this. I'm not seeing much benefit in the application besides somewhat higher density. Balance that against the fact that they're taking down 4 houses that are almost certainly more affordable to their current renters than the new townhomes will be. I'm not seeing any affordable housing in the petition. In its absence, if I could be so bold as to suggest passive house construction. As you know, despite the name, passive house construction isn't passive. It includes active heating and ventilation systems, but with very low energy demand. You probably know the 5 passive house principles: thermal insulation, passive house windows, ventilation heat recovery, air tightness, 0.6 ACH 50 or better, and absence of thermal bridges. These principles should be part of all new construction. The south-facing orientation of these particular townhomes would make them perfect for passive house certification. Tim McDonald of Onion Flat told Planning Commission in 2022 that passive house buildings don't have to cost more if they're done right and can even be compatible with affordable housing. Utility bills would be minuscule for renters, better indoor air quality, no gas connection, obviously, rooftop solar that could probably provide the necessary electricity most of the time, given the low energy demand for heating and cooling. This could be a model passive house net zero project, at least for this neighborhood. In fact, net zero should be the standard for all PUDs and all rezonings, in fact, at this stage, in alignment with the 820 plan and along the Viridian and Southtown models. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else present that would like to speak at this time about an item that is not listed as a public hearing on this agenda? Seeing no one, do we have anybody remotely?
We do not have any hands raised.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Which way do I look? Great. With that, I will close the first public comment, and then we'll move on to public hearings. Staff, thanks, Kelly.
For the Planning Commission meeting on June 4th, 2024, there is one item, but with 2 parts, and I can explain after reading. So the Washtenaw Avenue and East Stadium Boulevard Transit Corridor District TC1 rezoning. The Ann Arbor Planning Commission will hold a public hearing to hear all those interested in a proposed rezoning, an amendment to the zoning map, section 5.10.2 of chapter 55 of the Unified Development Code to rezone parcels in the Washtenaw Avenue East Stadium Boulevard area near US 23 to TC1 district before making a recommendation to City Council. The City of Ann Arbor is considering action to rezone approximately 103 acres, including at least 61 addresses and tax parcels in the Washtenaw Avenue East Stadium Boulevard area. More information is available at plan.a2gov.org/TC1 corridors. Part 2 of this notice is Pittsfield Village Townhouse Dwelling District R3 rezoning. The Ann Arbor Planning Commission will hold a public hearing to hear all those interested in a proposed rezoning, which is an amendment to the zoning map, section 5.10.2 of chapter 55 of the Unified Development Code. Rezone a portion of a parcel in the Pittsfield Village development along Parkwood Avenue, zone C3, fringe commercial, to R3 before making a recommendation to City Council. The proposed R3 zoning will match the existing residential use of the parcel. So by way of explanation, there's something more than just TC1 rezoning in this public hearing, because as we were reviewing all of the parcels carefully in order to properly notice them for that meeting, it came to our attention that there were a number of parcels that had split zoning districts, and we'd like to tidy them at the same time that we're advancing the TC1 parcels that are under consideration.
Thank you. We're on to section number 8, which is unfinished business, of which we have none. And we're going to be moving on to section 9A, regular business. Commissioner Hammerschmidt.
So regarding this 9A, I will be recusing myself as I am part of the development team. So let me know when I can come back.
Thank you. All right, with that, I'm going to announce 2270 Platte Road Site Plan for Planning Commission Action, SP 23-0022, Viridian at County Farm South. This is a site plan to amend the approved Viridian at County Farm South site plan. File number tracket, SP 21-020. By redesigning buildings V, as in Viking, KK, L as in lion, M as in Mary, C as in cat, D as in dog, and E as an elephant, EE-FF, increasing the total units from 110 to 121. Building locations generally remain the same, while the types of building proposed and the number of unit buildings per building changes. The Viridian at County Farm South development has 110 approved dwelling units. Proposed is 121 in a single-family townhouse and apartment buildings on 363,945 square foot, 8-acre site zoned Viridian at County Farm PUD district. The district is a mixed income, mixed using housing type, sustainable neighborhood of up to 16 dwellings per acre. And with that, I believe we are moving on to the petitioner presentation. So I believe we have Thrive Collective, Heath Har. And
Actually, we were going to, sorry to interrupt.
oh, sure.
The petitioner did not have a presentation at this time. Mr. Brokoff is here to answer any questions.
Okay.
I do have, and he can probably add anything that I may miss as we're going through this, but I have the screen up here so I can walk you out through the changes.
We'll move directly to staff
Great.
presentation. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, so forgive me, I am going to be reading some of this from my notes from Planner DeLeo, who is the main planner on this project. So basically what's here before you tonight is a revised site plan for the Viridian County Farm South. I think everybody's kind of familiar where the site's located, but obviously on Platte Road, just west of Huron Parkway there. The site, it's 8 acres of the 12-acre total Viridian at County Farm PUD, so it's all part of one PUD. They're only modifying the southern part of that PUD. So, and again, as Chair Lee indicated through the, it is a mixed housing sustainable neighborhood, and the overall density by the PUD regulations are permitted up to 16 dwelling units per acre. They do not exceed that. So the proposed plan does fit within the PUD zoning regulations here. So this is a project that would be approved tonight by Planning Commission and would not go forward to City Council afterwards. Okay, so getting to some of the details, basically the most important things. The site plan actually had several amendments gone through over the last couple of years. Basically, it was originally approved in 2020 for 99 dwelling units and 16 homes, 42 townhouses, 30 walk-up flats, and 11 micro studios. It was amended once in 2022 to increase the number of micro apartments, bringing the total number of dwelling units to 110. This proposed site plan adds 11 more dwelling units for a proposed total of 121. The proposed site plan changes you can see here up on the screen, they're kind of called out in the bubbled areas there in the black. I will scroll on to a next screen that shows them in a little bit more detail. You also have in our staff in your staff report a very helpful diagram that indicates the proposed site plan changes as far as what the approved layout, the number of units, how it's being changed, whether it's an additional units or less units in those areas. As well as on page 3 of the staff report, there are, again, zoom-in details of the site plan changes that are before you tonight. In summary, you can see, again, this is focused on the Viridian, the South PUD section. The changes, basically, they're adding new units because the individual garages in buildings CC and DD, is over on the right side of the plan here, and EEFF have been converted into living spaces. So basically, existing garages have been converted to living space. That allows the driveways that service those to be removed, reducing the overall amount of impervious surface, as well as in the previous, I don't have the previous approved plan, there's kind of like a faux street that was in between the parking areas there. So that street gets to be removed now, and there's, again, kind of in the upper right part of the screen, of the site plan image here, you can see there is additional green space in that area, so there's added pervious surface. Let's see, there's less vehicular use area and more green space, as I covered. The details of the building, I think, this is a plan that goes a little bit more into the open space plan here. Again, in the kind of the upper right here, the additional open space that surrounds building L, as well as the CC, DD, EE, and FF. This green, open space here will be a green area, which was, again, previously the garages, as well as a circulation drive. As part of the site plan, so again, although they were only altering a kind of a limited focus of this site plan, the site plan does get reviewed in its entirety. So this site plan has been through all staff review, transportation, as well as stormwater, and all of our reviewing staff, and they have recommended approval. And planning staff is recommending approval of the PUD changes, not PUD changes, of the site plan changes before you tonight. Thank you. And like I said, Mr. Grokoff is here if you guys have any other detailed questions about specifics that we may need to address.
Thank you, Mr. Kowalski. With that, with staff presentation complete, we'll move on to the public hearing. This is an opportunity for persons to speak up to 3 minutes about this item. We'll first call on individuals present to address the commission, then remote participants. To speak during this public hearing remotely, please press star 9 if listening by phone, or use the raise hand feature if viewing through the web link. And for phone access, please call 877-853-5247 and enter meeting ID 977-6634-1226. City staff will select callers that have raised their hand using the last 3 digits of the phone number or by name if available for those accessing through the web link. And you'll hear an automated announcement saying that the host is allowing you to speak. And when speaking, please move to a quiet area and mute any background sounds so we can hear you clearly. For either method of participation, please state your name and address at the beginning of your comments. And is there anyone present that would like to speak to the commission at this time?
Good evening. Norca Saldaña, living at 2201 South Huron Parkway. I frequented this area a lot because I live very close to County Farm, and I really love the greenness that we had there before this development was created. If you go there, you will see that there's hardly any space for any green. I have no idea where there are people that are going to move in there are going to park their cars. So there are going to be a lot of cars parked on the narrow streets that are there, and you can just drive there and take a look for yourself. I walk the park, so I walk right past all the construction all the time. I'm very concerned with the increased number of vehicles that will be added with 10 additional or 11 additional units as requested. It was originally 99, we're now at 121, and maybe next year they request, I don't know, an additional 10 units. So it's concerning for those of us that live in the area that suffer from the terrible traffic now added due to the narrowing of Platte Road. From 4 lanes that we had, we only have 2. So you should go there and watch the traffic going on forever. Now everybody's going through the neighborhood. They're very upset about all the flow of traffic going through the neighborhood, cutting through the one single light that's holding hundreds of cars every day. So I'm very concerned about additional cars in the area and the elimination of the greenness that we used to have all over the place there. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other folks present that would like to address the commission?
Thanks, Chair Lee. Ken Garber again. I don't live in the neighborhood, so I respect the neighbors' concerns about this project, and I think they should be addressed. From my point of view, I support these site plan amendments. Viridian is a model project in terms of net zero or positive energy in new construction. What they're doing is they're taking, all I know is about these amendments is what I just heard from Mr. Kowalski, and that they're converting the planned garages and street pavement to additional dwelling units. I think, this is a positive development. It's just more good stuff within this project. And I look forward to the discussion, but I support the amendments.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else present that would like to address the commission at this time? Seeing none, do we have remote callers that would like to address the commission?
There are no hands raised at this time.
Thank you. With that, I will close public comment, and I will read the proposed motion. The Ann Arbor City Planning Commission approves the 2270 Plant Road Site Plan V5 dated April 24th, 2024. Do I have a motion to approve, motion to proceed? Commissioner Weich, and seconded by Commissioner Mills. We are in discussion. Councilmember Dish.
Thank you for the public comment, and thank you for coming back with this site plan revision. So you are transforming a single-family dwelling to a multifamily dwelling. Yes, that's one of the ways. Yes. Yes, that is one of the ways in which you're achieving the unit increase. It's okay, I'm not asking a question. I'm just, if I get something wrong, you can tell me, or you can stand there, because that's great.
I'll just nod.
It's all, palatial now that we've rebuilt the podium.
I know, right?
So essentially, that is a transformation that is likely a move from a more car-intensive form of dwelling to a less car-intensive form of dwelling. And the things that you've added, the 4 additional walk-up flats and 8 additional micro studios, which have been, these are conversions from other things. It's not more than 11 units, but I'm not going to do all the math here. Those 2 are less car-intensive forms of dwelling. So I think from your perspective and from my perspective, this plan gives us less of what we don't want, which is fewer garages, fewer things that house cars, and more things that house people. In places of driveways, you're giving us bioswales, which is green, and I think that's a win. And you are giving us more housing because you have had such demand for this site, which will presumably take some traffic off of our roads because you are enabling more people to live in Ann Arbor in a part of town that will be very convenient to jobs and services. So if I've missed something, please let me know.
No, very well said. The purpose of this was for exactly the reasons that you address, that there are too many cars. We design all of our streets and everything else to be for cars, and this neighborhood was kind of doing that balance, and someone on this commission in our first hearing said, can you do more of these micro unit types that did not exist at the time? And we said, well, we will see. We will try to do that, but this is kind of balancing what the neighborhood wants. The count is lower, but the type of housing is very, very different. We removed 5 single-family homes in order to get these 11 units into this, plus by removing those garages, adding more housing, removing cars, and then offering, really looking to see how can we do this. My next project, I would like to do car-free completely and find other mobility options. And we are exploring those type of things with Viridian. With these units, there is a few less parking spaces. We put parking in and out here and make it very dynamic. But the neighborhood itself, there's abundant parking. There's parking at the church across the street in this neighborhood, and the thing. There's lots of paved spaces around that is unused. But we believe going forward in the future, things like bike share and car share that we will be working on with our homeowners association and figuring out how can we challenge some of the mobility assumptions that we currently have with the existing housing model. And that's just a tiny way that we could do this, and we went through a lot of trouble to do it at an expense to us. This is not a profit-motivated thing. This is really an opportunity to show that we can do things a little bit differently next time, and I think going forward that more of the neighborhoods will look more like this with more elevator access, accessibility, human scale, less cars, because we hear you.
I disagree with you, but that's another.
Excuse me, sorry. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate the explanation. Do we have other commissioners? Commissioner Mills, thank you.
Thanks for this. This, I think, is a question for staff, but maybe it's a question for you. It was mentioned in the staff report that there was an amendment between our approval of this in October of 2020 and what we're seeing. So I'm curious, did that come before us? Or was that one that didn't meet the threshold? And the bigger question is, I'm curious about why it is that we're seeing this, given that it conforms with everything within the zoning. And so what was the thing within our table that made it come before us?
Brett and Alexa said we had to. That's my answer.
Well, I could say I know. I honestly I don't know. I'm sorry about the middle plan, the plan that you just mentioned. That was before this one, in between the original approval. I'm not sure if that was administrative, but I know this one. Just looking at it, I can tell because of the changing of the vehicular use area, the circulation inside. It looks like there may have been some change to this. Is it solid waste maybe area?
Yeah.
So there's some changes in this one that I can see would trigger a site plan.
Yeah.
Again, just going through, even though the zoning, it fits well within the zoning. Our site plan table, I could see again, change of vehicular use area, there's change of circulation, change of solid waste. So that's just what I see off the top of my head.
Fire access, we're moving a road there. Do they still get their fire in?
Circulation changes, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Each one had to, and again, went through a lot of trouble to make sure that we could eliminate some cars.
Yeah.
And
I'm not.
all those things triggered a lot.
I'm
We pulled
not-
the thread on the sweater.
Amazing. I was gonna say, I'm not worried that the iteration in between didn't come to us. I think the question is more like,
make this easier.
did this need to come to us?
We were ready 9 months ago, so that would be fabulous if we could get these kind of things to go through much easier, because if we wanted to add parking, we probably wouldn't have had to come to you.
Which, yeah, I'm just thinking this might warrant, and maybe you'll see this in commission proposed business later on, revisiting kind of that table again of what things
that's on the
force them to come to us, because again, there's it complies, and so I understand, like, if there's an internal to the city, making sure all the departments, again, the fire truck can get down on the solid waste, but to schedule this, and there's a cost associated with coming before our body too. So we don't, but for the public, we don't get paid, just for what it's worth. We even have to pay for our own babysitters. The other thing that I would note here is that this is a situation where the PUD regulations were flexible enough to allow for this, blessedly, right? That we set a max density that gave us a little bit of flexibility, and also the mix of units allowed for, one of the things in going back and reviewing this, looking at the supplemental regs about what was required, it was important to us when we originally thought about this development that it include a mix of units, and that was obviously important to the plan too. One of the things that I noted, and so the supplemental regs said, 10% of the units needed to be detached, single family, and at minimum, and 30% needed to be, I can pull it up, something other, attached single family, and then minimum 20% being multifamily dwellings. I noticed in your table that you are exactly at the 30% attached single-family townhomes. And I'm curious if that percentage mix, like the extent to which the supplemental regs are really tying you in, or would there be a more ideal, or that actually you're happy with where things are now and that wasn't actually hampering you?
That did not factor into it, those
Okay.
numbers. I think that's probably coincidence. I think we were more impacted by the framework of fire code than anything else. That really limits the ability. I'm just going to give a public plug here for single stair access. This is something that everyone on this planning commission should be advocating very strongly for at the state level. A couple of states just recently have signed on, meaning that if we could do single stair access, many of these single family home buildings could be structured as multifamily buildings with a single stair access and potentially even an elevator access. And you can increase floor plan efficiencies with single stair access by up to 20%, which means you have 20% more housing or 20% less costly housing with no additional land that's required. Again, this is something that's being allowed in other jurisdictions. It's already been allowed in Europe, and it's not evidence-based fire code that you need two stair accesses. The types of materials you use have a greater impact on fire risk than the number of stairs you have. Synthetic materials, flashover point is 3 to 4 minutes. Natural materials, it's 30 minutes. So I'd ask you, which building would you rather live in? One that gives you 30 minutes to escape, but they'll give you 2 ways out, or 1 way out, or they'll give you 2 ways out, but you only have 4 minutes to escape. So it's kind of a silly thing. And so single stair access is a very big issue that's taking hold, and we need to let it take hold so that we're a leader in this as quickly as possible at the state level. So.
And that's really helpful. That's something that you just noted is outside of our purview. However,
but you're
every
advocates.
so often, we do the Planning Commission gets to weigh in on what our legislative priorities for the city are in Lansing. And this is something that is really helpful for us to make sure is on the long list of the things that the city of Ann Arbor is kind of lobbying for in terms of changes. So thank you for bringing
Happy
that up.
to share reports on single stair access with you guys so that you guys can educate yourself and be advocates for it at the state level.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any other commissioners? Comments? I think Councilmember Dish pretty much summed it up for me. I did take a look. I understand and I hear your comments with respect to traffic. So I did just pull up SEMCOG numbers for traffic counts on Platte Road as well as South Huron Parkway. So it looks like it's about 15,000 vehicles per day. And so the addition of anywhere from 10 to 22 vehicles would not be a material detriment, but I just wanted to kind of set it in context of how many vehicles per day trips are being registered currently. So we hear you, but I believe the units will not have garages.
We will not have garages. We don't believe in housing for cars, and frankly, even parking for cars. There should be other mobility options. And to your point, Commissioner Dish, we are really trying to create the type of housing that people can get around, and these are people who wouldn't necessarily want to spend money on a car or have the money to buy a car and then still be able to own their own home. So they're small units, but they're as little as $200,000 for these units, and they could live there without a car. Is the purpose of this redesign.
Thank you, Mr. Grokoff. It's certainly not to detract from your, empirical experience with the site, and so we certainly appreciate you taking the time to come speak with us. So, thank you. With that respect, do I have any other commissioners? Okay, we'll go to the vote. I'm going to reread the proposed City Planning Commission motion. The Ann Arbor City Planning Commission approves the 2270 Platte Road site plan dated April 24th, 2024. Staff, Mike Kelly.
Adams.
Yay.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Weatherby.
Yes.
Mills.
Yes.
Dish.
Yes.
Hammerschmidt is recused. Weish.
Yes.
Abrams.
Yes.
Lee.
Yes.
That that passes, that carries.
Thank you. Good luck. Yeah, please. Thank you.
Come back. I will.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We'll give her just a few minutes. Give us 1 minute.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
So, did we get an answer to Commissioner Mills'
Mills.
question about why this came here? It was just the movement. I know the developer spoke, but was it just the movement of the cars? Was that the answer?
Well, there's a couple of reasons I spotted: the moving of the solid waste receptacles, the
Okay.
change of circulation, the vehicular use area changes that's connected to the circulation, access drives. So there's a couple of them. That's just at the top. And again, I apologize, I didn't do the actual analysis, but I know just looking at this, those are things that right away would kick it to site plan.
Okay.
That's correct. Planner Kowalski is absolutely correct. And if you would like to know what the triggers are for yourself in the Unified Development Code, which for our listening public can be downloaded at a2gov.org/UDC, Table 5.29-1 has required approvals for development activities by land use. And one of the items of the current edition on page 211, if you are constructing a new or relocating existing access road or driveway, which there was in this case, for residential 7 or more dwelling units or all other uses, for example, group housing, mixed use, those have a P for Planning Commission. So if you take a look at some of the items that were just mentioned by Planner Kowalski and through your knowledge from the presentation and staff report, you can see which items for that all other uses would have triggered, and it was more than one item.
And just a quick follow-up, was the developer correct when they stated that if they wanted to add parking, they would not have had to come?
I don't know about that.
Okay.
I'd have to verify. It depends on where they would add it.
Okay.
So I'd have to check into that.
Great, thank you so much.
And
And
how-
thanks for the references in the UDC.
Yeah, and what percentage, we would have to look into the PUD regulations.
Oh, that's true,
too,
even if
because
there's a
since
max
this is a
parking.
PUD,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course. Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to item number 9B. This is regular business, 3310 Washtenaw. This is the Chick-fil-A site plan for Planning Commission approval, SB 23-0017. This is a proposed demolition of existing restaurant and construction of a new 5,240 square foot restaurant building and 50 new parking spaces. The site is zoned C3, fringe commercial, and no drive-through is proposed. With that, I believe we have a petition
Yes, the
presentation.
applicant is
Okay,
here.
got it. Sounds good. So,
Yeah, what? Remember how to.
welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then right. Close. Oh, it's really hard to see. Yep, that little one right there. And then full screen. Perfect.
Okay. All right. Good evening, Chair Lee, members of the commission. Thanks for having us. I'm Justin Lurk. I'm our project development lead for this project. I cover the Midwest region for Chick-fil-A. Address is 5200 Buffington Road, Atlanta, Georgia. And then with me is Leslie Accardo. She'll go through a few things here in a little bit as well, but we'll try to just give you a quick elevator speech of Chick-fil-A, and then we'll dig into the site plan for you all to consider. So if you're not familiar with Chick-fil-A, just a family-owned, privately held company, little franchise location, a little bit different than most franchise locations that in the fact that you're only guaranteed one location. So you can't come into Michigan and say, hey, I'm going to open up 25 Chick-fil-A's. You have to apply for a specific location. You get selected for a specific location. If that location does very well and we need to open up one nearby, you may qualify for a second, but you cap out at 3. So very, very different than most franchisees, and that's really our secret sauce and kind of our bread and butter is our local owner-operators that kind of living in the community in which they work, and just making those personal connections, building the team, really big on building the team members that we have, so it's not just a job, it's a career. We see a lot of owner-operators starting as a team member, working their ways up, applying to be an
owner-operator and become an entrepreneur in that aspect. So just a quick overview of Chick-fil-A there. Big on giving back to the communities, again, and where we operate. For the site that's in front of you, if you're not familiar with it, the former Denny's site, this is unique to Michigan, so worked on all 23 open locations we have in the state of Michigan. This will be the first one without a drive-through. So respecting the wants and wishes of the community here. So we'd be looking at taking the former Denny's location, kind of scraping that building and putting in a more energy efficient building in its place, about the same size, about the same amount of parking. We'll go through that as well. And then as you can see here, main access is off of Access Drive, not off of Washington Avenue. And then there's public parking on that main frontage road, Access Drive as well. So this is what the location looked like when it was open as a Denny's restaurant. So this is from the Access Drive looking into the property, and then this is from the back of the property looking at the back of the building, kind of towards Washington Avenue. And then these would be the proposed elevations of the Chick-fil-A building, all brick building. The top left corner is what you would see from that service drive, so the patio up front, the building, and then the top right corner again from the Access Drive. The bottom left corner is the main face that you see there with not many windows, just the transom windows. That would be right up against the Pet People building, and that's our back of the house. That's our kitchen, which is why I don't see a lot of windows on that. And then the bottom right-hand corner is what you would see from the parking field. So those are just some of the proposed elevations. And then this is a preliminary site plan and a landscape plan. So new landscaping throughout the property. I mentioned the outdoor patio, looking to have some tables so people can enjoy the warmer months, albeit maybe 2 or 3 a year, right? But some of the warmer months, we've got a lot of feedback from our customers in Michigan that they love the opportunity to go sit outside. So patio tables fronting the service drive in Washington was important to us. And then on the back side of the property, there's existing cross access with that Pet People location. We're planning to keep that there as well. And then one enhancement we're looking to do is add the EV charging stations into this development as well, so 6 of those, and then bicycle parking spaces as well. So that's just a high-level overview. I'll turn it over to Leslie. She'll walk through some of the more engineering type stuff, and we'll be here for questions.
Good evening. So we are proposing an underground storage system. So currently there's nothing in place at the existing site. We'll be proposing 18,000 square feet of stormwater. It will go through an isolator row, so that'll be part of the water quality before going into the existing storm system. And this was not previously part of the existing site for Chick-fil-A. We worked with Washtenaw County Water Resources prior to even starting the project. We did infiltration testing. Unfortunately, the soil's bad. And there's also, it's hard to tell from here, but there's a great deal of structures and easements and all sorts of other things that are going on with this site. So we were unable to do bioswales as a part of it, so we requested a landscape modification because of that. And then we're incorporating some sustainable features. So Justin mentioned the EV charging stations with capacity for additional, the bike racks, again, the underground detention system, and exterior lighting. So they'll have cutoff fixtures to reduce glare, timers to allow for ability to control remotely and local, and LED fixtures that utilize typically a lot less than a standard fixture. And then also with the building features, they typically like to provide LEED or ASHRAE 90.0 energy best practices. And that incorporates external glazing with low E, white thermoplastic roofing membranes, interior lighting, high performance LED fixtures. And then the back of house kitchen appliances are all electric and Energy Star, so dishwashers, ice machines, all that sort of thing. And just a quick shout out to the staff too. I mean, they've been amazing to work with, so really appreciate everything that they've done to get us to this point. And so if anyone have any questions?
Thank you. With that, I believe we go to staff presentation. We'll go to public comment and then we'll get to discussion. Thank you.
Okay.
Staff.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We have a pretty quick presentation on this one, just a couple of summary items. One thing I wanted to note off the beginning is in the proposed city planning commission motion, I wanted to add the date of the site plan in the version. So it's dated 4/1/2024 and it's version 3. So whoever, if and when we get to the point of a motion, if somebody could include that as well, please. Okay, again, kind of just in summary, as the petitioner just went over, they're going to raise the existing building that's there now. It's approximately 100 or so square feet larger than the proposed one. They are including a patio that was shown on one of their plans there in the front that for an outdoor seating area as well. And there's the existing site access is only the one curb cut from the Washtenaw Service Drive. There is parking allowed on part of the Washtenaw Service Drive. Now, it's an interesting, there's not parking actually allowed directly in front of their site on that service drive, but when the applicant initially came in, we explored that with transportation team and our engineering to say, why isn't there? And nobody really had a good answer. So, because if you'll see from aerial photos, there's parking all up and down that service drive. So it did come to a point with the discussions with the transportation team that if the petitioner or somebody wants to basically say, can we install parking here? That it could be striped, there would be a procedure for that. So they could follow up with that as well. But as you could see again from the aerial photos, there's enough parking in other areas of that access drive that is public parking. They're providing obviously 50 vehicular spaces on their site as well. They are installing EV parking and the chargers per code. They're actually installing, I believe, I think it's 3 more or so than code requires. Again, the access is not changing. They have access that's also provided to the rear of the site that was shown on their site plan. So that helps with solid waste as well as fire access and obviously just general transportation. Stormwater, as was indicated, there's no stormwater on the site currently at all. They are providing full stormwater detention. Related to stormwater detention is the landscape modification. Again, that's a separate, we included it in the site plan motion. It could be pulled out for whatever reason, but we included it all as one motion. So the landscape modification, it is supported by staff. It was basically, it's concluded that was required through soil samples and typical soil borings that we usually do. So again, the landscape modification is to eliminate the bioretention islands. All other landscaping does meet code, including the conflicting land use buffer along the rear. Although just to the rear of the site, there's pretty heavily vegetated area as well as the creek actually comes out there, which is part of where the applicant had indicated there's a lot of restrictions on the site. There's actually a creek that goes underneath part of it. You'll see from the areas how the Pet People building is kind of angled like that. Well, there's a huge drain commission easement across the site as well as this site too that they had to stay well out of, even though for the most part the creek underneath it is relatively small. But again, that issue, that's through the county's jurisdiction. They handled that. They're okay with it. They have given their approval to the plan. And really, again, that's pretty much covers the staff report. This is a project that does comply with the C3 zoning district, so staff is recommending approval at this time of both the site plan as well as the landscape modification. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Kowalski. All right, we're moving on to public hearing. This is an opportunity for persons to speak up to 3 minutes about this item. We'll first call on individuals present and then remote participants. To speak during this public hearing remotely, please press *9 if listening by phone or use the raise hand feature if viewing through the web link. For phone access, please call 877-853-5247 and enter meeting ID 977-6634-1226. City staff will select callers that have raised their hand using the last 3 digits of the phone number or by name if available. You'll hear an automated announcement saying that the host is allowing you to speak, and when speaking, please move to a quiet area and mute any background noises. For either method of participation, please state your name and address at the beginning of your comments. Is there anyone present that would like to speak to us at this time? Yes.
I live in the neighborhood. Yes, I live within the 300 feet away from the new construction site. My concern, as I stated before, is the heavy traffic that we have in Washtenaw Avenue Huron Parkway, Platte, you name it. If you live there, you know about it. I like Chick-fil-A, don't get me wrong. Okay, but I live there and I have to deal with the traffic every single day of my life. It's already bad enough, meaning that the lights are so out of order that they don't maintain flow. I am a PhD industrial engineer, so I know what I'm talking about. Flow. Okay, the lights on Washington Avenue are not well designed, meaning that you will go there during traffic time, you will see that the cars accumulate at the Huron Parkway and Washington Avenue intersection, and sometimes you can't go out because the cars are blocking your way if you're on South Huron Parkway. So we already have a problem with a lot of additional traffic coming into Chick-fil-A. It's a very popular restaurant. So there's going to be a lot of additional cars trying to get in and out. I can't imagine what this is going to look like. I have no idea where the 50 parking spaces are. But my concern, again, is that we used to live in a very quiet neighborhood, until all these Veridians of the world and the restaurants and the TC1 corridor and all these new inventions that are causing a lot of problem to the residents that were already there before all these planning started. So I'm very concerned about the traffic, the pollution. I live there, I have to breathe the air that comes out. I have to hear the sounds of the cars in the parking lot because my unit is just about 100 feet away from the parking lot of Chick-fil-A of the future. So I'm a very concerned citizen, and I would like the commission to really address not only the fact that there is a restaurant that wants to be established there, but that this creates additional problem in the neighborhood. Okay, and I live in a C3 area, but it's not commercial. We are residents there, we're people, we have units, we have apartments there. So that's something that I needed to bring out to the attention of the commission. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have any other speakers that would like to publicly comment?
Ten seconds, you're cutting me off? Oh, there we go. I wouldn't blame you, actually. So Ken Garber again. Yeah, I don't like this development either, but for different reasons. It got a sustainability review, and it pretty much failed all the way down the line. I'm going to focus on two aspects, solar and compost. The OSI reviewer asked for on-site solar. As usual, this was the reply. Renewable energy will not be provided on-site. We have reviewed this request with the site lighting manufacturer to determine if there was an opportunity to utilize solar lighting. The vendor has determined that the best options provide less than half the required lumens for standard Chick-fil-A fixtures. We also have some concerns about environmental conditions that would result in an unsafe environment for pedestrians and customers. End quote. This puzzles me because Chick-fil-A now, to its credit, has converted 3 restaurants to microgrids using solar panels to power these buildings. They're in Stockton, Santa Rosa, and Oceanside, California. And the company says it wants to do more solar, including new construction. A Chick-fil-A press release called the Stockton restaurant, quote, a win-win for both local owner-operators and the community, end quote. So obviously at these restaurants, solar panels are compatible with Chick-fil-A fixtures, and they don't create an unsafe environment for pedestrians and customers, whatever that means. Okay, on compost. When asked to provide compost bins, this petitioner's response was, compost bins will not be utilized, period. This is interesting, too. I just looked at the 2023 Chick-fil-A Global Impact Report. From the report, quote, as more towns and cities develop the infrastructure for community-wide composting, local Chick-fil-A owner-operators are actively composting food scraps, end quote. I don't know if Chick-fil-A food waste would be accepted at Ann Arbor's composting facility, but for places without community composting, the report cites a digester technology called Orca that many Chick-fil-A restaurants are using to break down food waste into liquid that's safe for municipal wastewater treatment plants. Also from the Chick-fil-A report, quote, "We work hard to be efficient with the food we have, but when it comes to food scraps or the occasional bun that is dropped on the floor, the Orca digester is the perfect solution," end quote. It goes on, quote, "Combined, these efforts across Chick-fil-A help bring us closer to achieving our goal of diverting 25 million pounds of restaurant food waste to landfill by 2025. Since 2020, we have diverted approximately 23.6 million pounds and will continue to emphasize this priority in our restaurant communities," end quote. So while I appreciate the no drive-through, 3310 Washington not only fails the city's requirements, it apparently doesn't even meet Chick-fil-A's own standards. And let's just say Chick-fil-A is not known as a particularly progressive company. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else present like to address the commission? Okay, seeing none. Do we have any remote callers?
There are no hands raised right now.
Thank you. Okay, just giving it one more second. Okay, we're going to close public comment on this particular motion, and I will read it. The Ann Arbor City Planning Commission approves the 3310 Washington site plan with landscape modifications to remove the requirements for biofiltration islands due to poor soil, which does not allow infiltration as it complies with all applicable requirements of the Unified Development Code and other applicable laws, ordinances, standards, and regulations. Moved by. Oh, yes, I will add the 3310 Washington site plan, April 1st, 2024, version 3. I was actually going to see if it would require formal amendment to the motion, but I will just add it now. April 1, 2024, site plan version 3, moved by Commissioner Mills, seconded by Councilmember Dish. We are in discussion. Would anyone like to kick us off? Commissioner Hammerschmidt.
Thank you, as we fight over that. So I'll just pick up where Mr. Garber left off, because in reading the response, I feel like this is specifically about site lighting. Have you thought about rooftop solar?
We had reached out to our lighting consultant and asked them to provide some feedback on this based on the location, climate, that sort of thing, specific to Michigan. And their concerns were that they would not be able to meet the requirements needed for safety for employees and customers.
But is that not for site light, like rooftop solar to generate electricity for like running the building?
I don't know that I can speak to that.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that for you, but for any of the projects that I've worked on to date across the Midwest, we haven't utilized any of the solar panels like in the Midwest region. I know he had mentioned three of our 3,000 locations have utilized that to date, but I know in the Midwest region we have not.
Yeah, I think California requires it now, so that makes sense. But solar does work in Michigan. I don't know what your lighting guy was talking about. And I'll just say one thing and then I'll pass it to you. Well, that's okay. Wait, what was it? No, it's okay. Oh my God, I totally lost my train of thought. Oh, okay. I appreciate that you understand our body enough to know that coming to us with a drive-through was probably a non-starter, and I do have some questions about that I'm going to ask later, but you have to know that this is really, really important to the city of Ann Arbor. We have really aggressive sustainability goals and climate action goals, and I guess I just feel like the responses that you've provided to OSI aren't what we would like to hear from a developer, especially building a new construction building. Understand that we are not requiring it, but we can't because of the state, but it's really important to Ann Arbor. And if anybody else wants to ask questions related to that, I'm going to yield for now.
Commissioner White.
So can we see the site plan that shows the flow of traffic? It has arrows on it. I don't know if we can bring that up on the screen.
This
Okay.
one here? Perfect.
Yeah, that should work. There's one in the site plan that is a little more, has movement, it seems. in that.
That's the only one I have in here, right?
Sorry. I'll
Maybe
tell you.
truck turning movements?
Yeah, it's page 6 of 25 in the actual site plan document. Do we have access to that for the screen?
Yes, I can,
If Mr. Kowalski wants
Yep.
to share screen, I can switch the screen view.
Okay. no, actually, this is it.
I think it's showing the fire truck movement
Think is
with arrows.
this the one?
I can't see from there, but I'm gonna trust
Oh.
you.
Well, there, wait.
Yeah, no, that's it. I think it's either.
Well, there's
page
another
6.
one.
Yeah,
There's
the
there's
one.
two actually.
Yeah, the one that you're on now.
Okay.
I think is fine. So my questions are around pedestrian safety. So how are you mitigating people parking and crossing this traffic?
Sorry.
So if they're parking like on what you see as like the left side of the screen?
Anywhere in this site. So I am a parent of 3 kids. We've parked our car. We now have to go into the restaurant, but there's this flow. So how are you sort of thinking about like how you've laid out the site? How are you prioritizing pedestrian safety in this layout?
Sure. So we've got I believe it's 24-foot wide drive aisles here for two-way traffic, which is pretty common and customary, like for two-way traffic with 90-degree angled park. So you can park on either side of the drive aisle, just like any other restaurant or shopping center. So we've got parking spaces immediately adjacent to the building, and then we've got some on the left side of the screen as well. We've got some on the south side. There's a sidewalk leading from the spaces where you see the mouse right now all the way to the front door. So anything on the right-hand side of the screen or the south, there's a sidewalk that would lead you right to the door without having to cross the internal drive aisle. But the parking spaces on the left-hand side, you would have to cross the drive aisle to get to the front door.
And what is there a plan that shows the lighting or any of the striping in the parking lot in terms of like a crosswalk as a signal to the driver?
This plan has a cross. Well, I can go through the other sheets. I mean, yes, they do have. Is it showing? Okay. I should zoom in. They do have a crosswalk shown here. Yes, it's kind of a striped crosswalk leading from. That's the. Wait, let me get to the right. Yeah, that might show it a little bit better.
Yeah,
right?
no,
You can
that
see here
one.
in this area right here. So yes, this is a sidewalk going up from this area directly to here, and then obviously sidewalk access to the Washtenaw Service Drive. There's no other sidewalks in this location. These are required landscape islands, so they
Right.
can't put sidewalks there.
Yeah, so that's just my concern. Your restaurants are popular. I've seen people backed up for a mile, sort of trying to access your restaurant, and the movement of humans across that is just something that I wanted to highlight as we were looking at this plan to understand how you were hoping to sort of mitigate that. And I think I have 2 questions. One, do you have a typical count for trip visits to your restaurants, and especially here in the Midwest, that you would be willing to share?
Sure. So this one's quite different from
Right,
any
because it
other-
doesn't have a drive-through, but
So,
that was a non-starter.
So we look at transactions, right? How many times the register goes off. A lot of times you could have multiple transactions per car, but on average we see anywhere from 1,200 to 1,800 transactions a day, at our full-service restaurants with a drive-through.
And have you broken that down by hour?
Pardon?
By hour?
Like for a peak hour, is that what you're looking for?
We have, the Whole Foods gets like 500 daily car visits, or Costco gets 500 visits an hour. So, or something we heard when we were looking at something on State Street, and that was like such a high number. And then I realized, well, that's probably true because of how difficult it is to get in and out. So just trying to think about like, what is it going to produce in terms of, because it's a car-centric restaurant. So people are driving into this, and so like pedestrian safety is, I think, the concern that I'm
Sure.
trying to assess. And
Yeah.
I'm trying to get at it through some information, so.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, our typical peak hours, over like a lunch hour or a dinner hour, those are obviously our busiest times. We do offer breakfast. We're open 6:30 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday through Saturday, closed on Sundays. But a typical peak hour for a full-service restaurant with a drive-through can range anywhere from 100 to 150 cars per hour during a peak hour.
Yeah.
This obviously doesn't have a drive-through. We'll have spaces dedicated for Grubhub, Uber Eats, things like that, to take food to people that may not have cars in the community, like like you just heard from the petitioner before us. So that's how we plan on servicing the community here.
And then a follow-up question, and then I'll yield for now, is do you do app delivery to the car? So could I order, park, and then have someone bring the food out to my car?
That is an option that the local owner-operator could choose to utilize at this location.
So we could actually just have all the parking full of folks that are expecting people to come out, so it's a walkout, not a drive-through, plus backup of people trying to access the lot if this owner chooses to have those deliveries come from the store out to a parked vehicle. Is that correct?
You're saying every parking spot could be
No, I'm just
utilized
saying it is possible that if this owner chooses, that the whole parking lot could be full of people that are receiving deliveries as opposed to parking going into the store.
I do know we don't have a restaurant in the chain where all spaces are designated for, pickup. Typically, that's 3 to 5 spaces per location.
So they're designated?
Correct.
Okay, all right,
Yes.
that's a helpful distinction.
Correct,
Though
yes.
people may ignore that designation?
People do lots of things, right?
Okay,
They
all right,
may- yes.
great. I will yield for someone else and come back later.
Thank you. Any other commissioners? Councilmember Dish?
Thank you. Thanks for coming. And again, I will voice appreciation for you not asking about a drive-through. And I understand that is a departure for you, and it's a loss. But I will just mention to you that we do have commercial composting available in Ann Arbor through My Green Michigan.
Okay.
And that I would urge you to check out whether it is something that you have to pay for. It's not a city service that you sign up for, but given the weight of food waste and how much it costs to dump that in a landfill, you might be better off composting. And then that would be something that you could advertise.
Sure.
Because Ann Arborites like that.
Sure.
So thank you for being willing to check that out.
Absolutely.
All right.
And one other item we didn't mention kind of goes along the lines of composting. One thing that a lot of our owner-operators do is participate in a program called Shared Table. So any food that is still within its availability to eat time frame, partner with local charities to donate that food versus throwing it away.
So we do have food gatherers in Ann Arbor.
Good.
Whom you could speak with them. I don't know if yes, that's great. Thank you. Right.
Good.
Thank you. Commissioner Abrams?
I'm just pointing out a small discrepancy between the site plan and the staff report. The site plan says 50 parking spaces, and the staff report says 52.
Yep, I noticed that actually before you did.
I hope it's 50.
It's 50 parking spaces.
It's 50?
I looked at the site plan as well.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm not in the restaurant business. That seems like a lot of parking for, I think I counted there are 90 some seats total in the restaurant. So you'd have to have like every single seat full and less than 2 people per car to have that lot full. I guess you also have DoorDash, et cetera. And anyway, it feels like a lot of parking, but, and then that was all. And then, we can't require it, but just would really encourage you to look at rooftop solar. It feels like, low-hanging fruit, essentially, in this location, something for you to look into. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other commissioners? Commissioner Mills?
This just came to my mind, because on the previous petition, we looked at table 5.29-1 about the things that come before us. And I just want to verify with staff that among the reasons that this is coming before us is because it is a new building that is non-residential. Is that right?
That's correct.
So it's not just about the landscape modification?
Oh, no. It would, yes, because they're demolishing the existing restaurant and it's a whole new building. Yes, that's why.
Okay, thanks.
Yes. But with that, obviously, come all the other code requirements, landscaping being one of them. And
Exactly. And had they reused the Denny's and remodeled,
they wouldn't be here.
right, okay. So, I mean, from my perspective, this is a use that is permitted in this district. It is, because it's a new building, it's a shame that it doesn't have, some of the sustainability features that we're looking for now, that we weren't looking for when the Denny's was built. And that also, again, I'll just chime in that like now is a really good time, and we've actually just had changes in state policy that make it easier to access rooftop solar. So like that's, in this market, like that's a good thing. In terms of the parking or the anticipated traffic, in terms of parking spots, the Denny's has 53, so it's not that different. I appreciate that it's pulled up to the road. I appreciate that, again, I will chime in my thanks for awareness of the kind of market that we have and not wanting to add additional drive-throughs. And every time I've been to or been by a Chick-fil-A, there has been lots of cars queued for the drive-through. So I'm curious how that's going to work here. On the other hand, if there is to be a queue, the fact that there is the service drive here is better than almost any other place in Ann Arbor that I could think of for that. I hope that people park and walk and come in and use the patio. But again, in terms of the number of seats, because of the footprint and also just the number of parking spots, it's not that different than what's there right now. So I encourage you to look at composting, to look at rooftop solar, but this appears to me to meet the code, and the landscape modification, because the site conditions don't allow for the required landscaping to properly function, seems reasonable to me.
Thank you. Any other commissioners? Commissioner Weich.
This is more for staff, and it was to address the public commenters' traffic concerns. Where is the best place for that conversation? Because we don't have much control over the traffic flow.
We are transportation team, transportation engineering. They would be the one, they look at all the light coordinations, light timing, issues like that.
And it, again, just in terms of the number of trips, this is not going to create a demonstrative impact to the number of trips that are already on Washtenaw. Because we're at, what, 30,000 a day on Washtenaw?
Right. I mean, it's a pretty intense use, but correct. Compared to what's on Washtenaw, they did submit, I was trying to look it up, they did submit traffic information and everything else that was reviewed.
Now, again, to the public commenters' concern, the shopping complex that they are adjacent to has a few curb cuts into it, and I appreciate the concern about traffic. I work on Platt Road, so I understand that we're going to have more neighbors and more traffic, but we can't mitigate that completely here because they're not creating enough trips to offset what's happening on Washtenaw because it's 30,000. So if this was a smaller road, let's say 500 trips, and then they came in, then there might be something that planning could do to address it. But because Washtenaw and Platt has 15,000, Huron Valley probably has, or Huron River Drive probably has 20,000 trips. So in this neighborhood, there's just a lot of cars that are already there, and so there's very little that we can do here. Again, my concerns are just about pedestrian safety. You're going to have a lot of cars coming in and out of this, so anything that you can do in your design to sort of help mitigate that, I think would be appreciated. I appreciate you, Mr. Garber, bringing up the the annual reports, just as a reflection back to you around the rooftop solar. So as been noted here, and our Office of Sustainability and Innovation already gave you feedback on that. The composting, again, is something that seems like a very low-hanging fruit thing. And I think it would just be helpful, and I don't know if this is a staff question or comment for staff, just when the petitioner brought up their sustainability, the thing that triggered in my mind is what's required by code and what are they providing that's in addition. And I think the only thing I heard that they're providing that's in addition is 3 additional EV spots, but everything else is required by code.
Correct, right.
Okay, so there really wasn't.
Well, I mean, there could be some, I don't know electrical code and things like that. There could be things buried in there, but correct, the most obvious issue that we see is the additional EV parking.
Right, so that would just be a little bit more forthcoming than to try to say that this is something that is being done towards sustainability. We actually require these things, and so that's the floor, so it would be helpful there, but you might not be back for another site here in Ann Arbor, so that may be lost in this opportunity. But I think that was it. Thanks, Charlie.
Thank you. Any other commissioners? Comments? Okay, a few thoughts on my end. We'll echo, take a look at solar, that would be great. Just for the commission's reference point, it adds up to about 9.5 spaces per 1,000 square feet, which is, I will say, it's a little bit on the higher side of things. Just as from a commercially reasonable standpoint, office you'll see 4 spots per 1,000, and restaurant you do expect to see somewhere between 5 and 9 is a little on the high side, but again there was 53 on the existing site, so totally understood with that respect. The only part that I kind of took a look at is the landscape modification requirements. If the soil is unsuitable for filtration, that is one of the items that is required. So I believe that fits. I did look at section 5.20.1. It does say it was the promote the public health by reducing noise, air pollution, grade, and then I think it's subsection G, which is the site conditions including soil type. It's to promote the preservation of existing significant vegetation and reducing the negative impacts of stormwater runoff by reducing impervious surface area. I think the addition of 18,000 cubic feet of retention is pretty significant, especially for a site that doesn't currently have it. So I think that's, so all in all, I believe that this fits from a permitted use standpoint, as well as the dimensional standards and the Washington County Resource Commissioner's review. I will also say, to address, again, I want to emphasize how grateful I am that you, public commenters will come to speak at these things. So it always takes a lot. You're here on a Tuesday night, so we certainly appreciate the civic engagement. I will just a point of reference, I'm looking at the SEMCOG traffic volume map, so you can go online, Google SEMCOG traffic count, and that'll tell you kind of what SEMCOG, that's the Southeastern Michigan Council of Governments, and so it's a regional entity that measures traffic. And Commissioner Weiss did mention, yeah, it looks like from here about 37,600 vehicles per day. And for just point of clarification, Platt is south of that when it connects. So just go check out the, if anybody's interested, take a look at the SEMCOG map. As far as this particular site plan is concerned, I believe it fits. So with that, do we have any other commissioners with any closing thoughts on discussion? Okay, with that, I'm going to read the motion, and we're going to go to a vote. So the proposed City Planning Commission motion is the Ann Arbor City Planning Commission approves the 3310 Washtenaw site plan dated April 1st, 2024, version 3, with landscape modification to remove the requirement for biofiltration islands due to poor soil conditions, which does not allow infiltration, as it complies with all applicable requirements of the UDC, the Unified Development Code, and all other applicable laws, ordinances, standards, and regulations. We will go to a roll call vote. Mix Kelly.
Adams.
Yes.
Weatherby.
Yes.
Mills.
Yes.
Dish.
Yes.
Hammerschmidt.
Yes.
Weiss.
Yes.
Abrams.
Yes.
Lee.
Yes.
That carries.
Motion carries. Good luck.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to Section 9C, regular business. This is the 2862 Stone School Road Annexation and Zoning, AAPS Project 24-0001. Ann Arbor Public Schools initiated annexation of this vacant 2.65 acre parcel from Pittsfield Township, rezoning to public land. 22, all right. And the staff recommendation is approval. And so with that, we will move on to staff presentation.
Yep, you pretty much gave my presentation.
Yeah.
There's not much more to it than that.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So, I'm not sure if the applicant, I put my glasses back. Okay, yes, sir. If needed, I believe Jason Bing is here from the school system. If you have any questions on it, but again, apologies, my mic is now on. Staff is recommending approval. It's a straightforward annexation and zoning.
All right, thank you.
Zoning is PL for public land, of course.
Do we have a petitioner presentation? No.
No, there's no, I didn't
Yeah,
advise them to make a presentation.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
just asked them to be available if there's any questions. No immediate plans for the land, just probably administrative cleaning it up.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. I'm going to move on to public hearing. This is an opportunity for persons to speak up to 3 minutes about this item. We'll first call on individuals present to address the commission, then remote participants. To speak during this public hearing remotely, please press *9 if listening by phone, or use the raise hand feature if viewing through the web link. For phone access, please call 877-853-5247 and enter meeting ID 977-6634-1226. City staff will select callers that have raised their hand using the last 3 digits of the phone number or by name if available. You'll hear an automated announcement that the host is allowing you to speak and when speaking. Please move to a quiet area and mute any background noises so that we can hear you clearly. For either method of participation, please state your name and address. At the beginning of your comments, is there anyone present that would like to speak to the commission? Seeing none, do we have any remote participants?
There are no hands raised at this time.
Thank you. With that, I'll close public comment. I'm going to read the motion, which is the Ann Arbor City Planning Commission hereby recommends that the mayor and city council approve annexation and public land zoning of 2862 Stone School Road. Moved by Commissioner Mills and seconded by Commissioner Abrams. We're in discussion. Councilmember Dish.
I would like to ask a really basic question. So this has to be zoned public land because it's the school buying it?
Yes, that's what we would zone. All public property for the schools is typically zoned PL.
Okay.
I mean, it doesn't have to be necessarily. I mean, there's schools that are zoned R1, R2, but PL is the standard zoning district.
Oh. So if they wanted to maybe monetize it sometime, they could, you're already laughing, they could zone it. They could ask some other zoning category. Because if it's public land, now, can you rezone that or does it require a?
Yes, they can request a rezoning or a future seller contingent upon, same as we do other petitions. If they were interested in selling it and they did have a buyer, they could petition contingent upon, the rezoning like we do for other site plans. So yes, it could be rezoned from PL later.
Okay, thank you. That wasn't such a dumb question as I
No,
thought.
that's a good question.
Commissioner Mills.
It looks like it's surrounded by public land too, so that makes it tricky. One of the questions that I have, so in terms of like what to zone it, I think that it probably makes sense right now. It looks like there's sidewalks there now in front of it. Does that seem right? That's what Google Street View shows me. This is on the west side of the street, yeah?
Yes, it is on the west side. I'm zooming in. Yes, there's this.
It looks like it's like
right on the road, but yes, there is a sidewalk along there, yes.
Okay, I was just curious if there was any other, by having it in the city fold rather than in township, what the other implications are.
No, I mean, because again, at this time, it's just an annexation. They're not proposing development. If they were proposing any kind of development on the site, we would certainly recommend, or I don't know that we can necessarily require a sidewalk, or like maybe a different sidewalk arrangement or something would move it further. But at this point, it's just an annexation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yeah, sure. Commissioner White.
So they would only come to planning the school if they're interfacing with fire, sewer, or water. Otherwise, the school district would be able to build whatever they wanted on
They
it.
could, but we've had site plans that come through planning commission previously for other school, I'm trying to think back a while, but yes, they're not required to go through but we do have a public project review that we would put it through as well, but they're not required to adhere to our code, so.
Right.
Any other comments? Commissioner Hammerschmidt.
I'm just curious, the house that exists on this parcel, is it occupied or utilized in any way?
There wasn't a registered rental. I would look to the petitioner, but there wasn't, I did check to see if there was a registered rental or anything. Right now, there is not. So I'm not sure if it is. Is it occupied at this time?
Thank you, Commissioners. Good evening. Right now, it's scheduled for deconstruction and demolition.
Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, could you give your name again, please?
Jason Bing with Ann Arbor Public Schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Oh, yes, Commissioner Abrams.
Mr. Bing, you could stay. Yes. Is this site slated for a new school building, new extension of pathways?
Yes, so right now, we are working with the city planning department and stormwater and the fire marshal on a plan review for a potential new pathways. And it would sit on this site, just to the south.
Great, thank you. Just a clarification, because I think you said, Mr. Kowalski, there are no plans for this site.
I'm like, site plan
Yes, there's a site plan submittal. So the interesting part about our process is that, we're a state-regulated entity, and so the interface with the city is basically where our utilities handshake off the site. And so we're petitioning or annexing this property so that we can have access to city utilities and that those handshakes can exist.
But there's no site planning right now that we have. There's engineering.
I believe that their reviews go straight to civil engineering review, and there are optional planning comments. The reviewer for this project, I believe, was Grayson Moore, which is why you might not have seen them.
Okay, so that's a perfect question, Commissioner White's reason for that. So I apologize, that was misinformation, so.
Sorry, I didn't speak up sooner.
And I'm sorry, I didn't stand up right away because there's two Stone School properties and I had the addresses backwards, so.
Thank you for that clarification, that helps.
The other property, there's absolutely zero happening on, but this one on Stone School is in fact right now in planning review. There is a site plan review.
Yeah, there is a civil
progress.
plan review for it. I did note that, but I thought it was just for engineering it, but that explains it.
Thank you. Any other commissioner comments? Commissioner White.
So since there is a site plan, because there is a potential site that's coming here, do you plan to, we won't be able to see anything that comes into that in terms of...
No, because I haven't.
Well, because my concern is about the flow of traffic and the pedestrian safety, because the school district is undergoing new development across the entire district, and there's been, I think, some confusion between the school district and the city about having drop-offs in front or attached to the schools. And we talked at the Lawton School conversation, and I talked to city staff about it, and both city council members in the 4th Ward tried to track down what I heard from you, that the city would not allow you to stage parking and drop off instead of having it on site. They could not find anybody in the city who said that, and so I just don't understand how we interface together, and so I don't know how to get the right information to you so that you are aware that the city is quite interested in reducing a car-centric development of these schools as you are building them, because this is our opportunity to change the car centrality of having cars go right up to the building as opposed to staging areas. So for your information, Councilmember Iyer would be happy to chat with you because she both lives in the Lawton area, is interested in that, and I would be interested in whatever ways that we can interface to make sure that as we build this out with these new schools, that we can minimize this car-centric drop-off and pickup.
Sure. Yeah, no, and I apologize if there was confusion. I mean, our process is that we work directly with transportation and with planning and with stormwater and with the fire marshal on the process. So
and with your permission,
Sure.
I'm happy to email you the responses that I got from our city council members as a direct response of our conversation at Lawton, because apparently there is no one in the city that is opposed to you staging drop-off and pickup, especially as we are building these new schools. And I just think this is a wonderful opportunity for us to prioritize the free movement of kids to their schools without the centrality of cars being involved in that.
thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments with respect to the annexation and the zoning of PL? Seeing none, I'm going to read the proposed City Planning Commission motion. The Ann Arbor City Planning Commission hereby recommends that the mayor and city council approve the annexation and PL Public Land District zoning of 2862 Stone School Road. McSkelly.
Adams.
Yes.
Weatherby.
Yes.
Mills.
Yes.
Dish.
Yes.
Hammerschmidt.
Yes.
Weish.
Yes.
Abrams.
Yes.
Lee.
Yes.
That carries.
Thank you. Motion carries. We're going to move on to Section 9D, regular business. Welcome back. 3801 Stone School Road, annexation and zoning, AAPS Project 24-0002. Petitioner requests annexation of a vacant 3-acre parcel in Pittsfield Township and PL zoning. Petitioner is requesting annexation of the parcel since it is within the contiguous bounded limits of the city for educational use and access to utilities. The parcel has no direct access to any road, but does abut the existing Ann Arbor Public Schools Bryant Elementary School, currently zoned PL, on the northeast side. My alma mater. Staff recommendation is approval. Any presentations? Cool.
That pretty much sums
All
it
right.
up. Thank you.
Yeah, sounds good.
This one truly is vacant, though, so I can say that one.
Gotcha, thank you. I'm going to move straight on to public hearing then without a petitioner or staff presentation. This is an opportunity for persons to speak up to 3 minutes about this item. We will first call on individuals present to address the commission, then remote participants. To speak during this public hearing remotely, please press *9 if listening by phone or use the raise hand feature if viewing through the web link. And for phone access, please call 877-853-5247 and enter meeting ID 977-6634-1226. City staff will select callers that have raised their hand using the last 3 digits of the phone number or by name if available. You'll hear an automated announcement that the host is allowing you to speak, and when speaking, please move to a quiet area and mute any background sounds so we can hear you clearly. For either method of participation, please state your name and address at the beginning of your comments. Is there anyone present that would like to address the commission? Seeing none, are there any remote participants?
There are no hands raised at this time.
Thank you. All right, with that, I'm going to read the proposed City Planning Commission motion. The Ann Arbor City Planning Commission hereby recommends that the mayor and city council approve the annexation and PL Public Land District zoning of 3801 Stone School Road. Proposed motion moved by Commissioner Mills, seconded by Commissioner Weich. Discussion. Commissioner Hammerschmidt.
Thank you. Okay, so for this one, you said there are no plans to build. Okay, then why annex it?
The school district purchased the property just on Ellsworth, and so this intermediate parcel connects the existing Bryant School parcel with the parcel on Ellsworth. So in our capital program, we do have plans to come back to Bryant, I think in 2034 or beyond. And so, having the ability to access utilities in this area would allow for consideration in a more central site in a contiguous sort of set of property versus
Yeah.
that was basically an island between two
So
properties.
city, township, city,
Yep.
and now it's all, okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Great. Any other commissioner comments? Commissioner Mills?
And so to be clear, you do own this, and you have owned it for some time?
Yes.
Okay, got it. That clarifies much, thanks.
It had sat as a field for a very long time adjacent to Bryant School, and there's really no need to annex that parcel for a long time until we purchased the property just to the south along Ellsworth, and then all of a sudden we needed to consider.
Thank you. Any other commissioners? Seeing none, I'm going to move this to the vote, and I will read the proposed motion. Once again, the Ann Arbor City Planning Commission hereby recommends that the mayor and city council approve the annexation and public land district zoning of 3801 Stone School Road. Ms. Kelly?
The motion is presented. Commissioner Adams?
Yes.
Weatherby? Yes. Excuse me. Commissioner Adams, yes. Weatherby, yes. Commissioner Mills?
Yes.
Dish?
Yes.
Hammerschmidt?
Yes.
Weish?
Yes.
Abrams?
Yes.
Lee?
Yes.
That carries.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. We're going to move on to Section 10A, which is other business. This is the 601 Mary Court pre-PUD conference checklist. As noted before, there is no public hearing on this. This is a pre-PUD conference. The proposed project site includes 4 parcels on the north side of Mary Court, bounded by Mary Street to the west and a public alley to the east. The 4 existing lots each contain 1 single-family home. The 4 lots will be combined into one 8190 square foot parcel. That's 8,190 square feet. And the combined site is planned for rezoning to a PUD, planned unit development, for a multi-family residential building. Surrounding uses include multi-family residential to the north and west, commercial areas to the east, and the University of Michigan buildings to the south. The proposed housing development would target student tenants. The proposed 3-story buildings would feature 8 4-bedroom units of 1,612 square feet each, and a total of 12,896 square feet of floor area. I believe this is going to move forward with petitioner presentation. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is David Lewis. I'm with Lewis Greenspoon Architects, 440 South Main Street, Ann Arbor. And this is Brad Wilkinson.
Hello, I'm Brad Wilkinson. I'm the developer.
Thank you. Welcome.
Let's see if this mouse is working. I'm going to do a quick presentation with first kind of an orientation of the neighborhood we're developing in. This is the John F. Lawrence edition that was established in 1890. And it's basically bound by Hoover Avenue in the south, Division on the west, Hill Street on the north, and State Street to the east, with Packard kind of slicing the corner a little bit. This neighborhood is, I believe, completely student rental properties. There's a mix of single-family homes, duplexes, and apartment buildings. I believe most of the apartment buildings are in the 12 to 18 unit neighborhood, typically 2 or 3 stories. There is, as I imagine most of you know already, on the other side of Hoover are some athletic facilities of University of Michigan. Packard and State Street have a lot of commercial and retail buildings. And then this is Mary Street, and our project is on Mary Court here, and then there's an alley. And then just zooming in a little bit, Mary Court is a private street that was created back in 1916. The developer's desire and vision for this development is to maintain and improve Mary Court and try and balance increase in density without kind of destroying the character of Mary Court, and also a strong desire to build something that kind of fits in the neighborhood. So we've come up with this concept of 8 townhomes in a single building, 4 bedrooms per unit. This basically doubles the existing density. Right now, there's 4 single-family homes with 4 bedrooms each, so there's 16 bedrooms, and we'll be building 32. The new construction is going to extremely outperform the existing buildings that are there now. We are going to do a thermal envelope for the new building that's above code minimum, Energy Star appliances, high efficiency HVAC, and then also a pretty elaborate stormwater system. Similar to Chick-fil-A, the soil isn't good for infiltration, so we're having to do a pretty significant system of stormwater. But it's going to be, right now, there's nothing on the property that addresses the stormwater at all. So overall, I feel like there's a significant improvement to the impact on the environment and the carbon footprint of the building compared to simply fixing up the old homes that are there versus what we would get in new construction. Let me move on to the actual project. This is a rendering. Let me go up to full screen if I can find it.
Perfect.
Here's a rendering of the proposed 8 townhomes with Mary Street in the foreground and Mary Court here. There is currently I was going to show you some photos. Oops. There's currently a sidewalk that's kind of in poor condition that we're going to rebuild something better and nicer. And we're going to be providing some benches for people to sit at and enjoy the open space. And again, the developer feels like the existence of Mary Court is kind of a special feature. It's not typical in this neighborhood. And he feels really strongly about keeping it and improving it, which I think is a nice amenity for the neighborhood. Here is architectural site plan. On the south side of Mary Court, there are 4 homes that are remaining. And you can see here the walkway. Every unit will have a front porch. There'll be a walkway with some steps up to the front porch, bicycle parking on either end of the court, and a place to store trash and recycling carts in the back. This drawing here, you see the kind of outline of the 4 homes that are going to be demolished. And this is the exterior elevations of the proposed building, the court elevation, where you have the 8 front doors. This is the Mary Street elevation. Again, we're trying to kind of blend in with the existing context of 2- and 3-story buildings. And this is the north elevation. And then this is the elevation of Mary Street, showing the existing 2- and 3-story buildings and the proposed new 8 townhomes here. And this is Hoover, and then you have the intramural sports building across the street on Hoover. Let me just go back real quick. I was just going to show some photos. I'll start here. This photo on the lower left is kind of looking down Mary Street, looking south towards the intramural sports building at U of M. And again, you can see kind of typical 2- and 3-story buildings in the neighborhood. This is looking north on Mary Street. This is the corner of the property in question. This house was, had a pretty significant addition done to it at some point, basically making this a 3-story building. Down Mary Street, there's a new, I believe this is a duplex, and this is a view of the alley looking with the property on the left, and this is a large apartment building facing State Street across the alley. And here are some images of Mary Court, how it looks today. There are some benches, and this is that sidewalk that we're going to improve. So I think we're going to kind of take the best of what Mary Court has now and keep the best parts and make everything else better. Let me go back to... I don't know if you have anything to add, Brad?
No, but ready for comments and questions.
Thank you. And then I believe there's also a staff presentation.
We do have a couple comments to add.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Of course. So really, in any PUD analysis, we look first at kind of, can it fit any other zoning districts? PUDs should be a last resort. We don't want to default to those, of course. So in this case, really, the most comparable district would be the R4E, as far as a multifamily. The density complies. However, the project is unique in that the lot size doesn't really comply to any of our districts other than the smallest single-family district. So it doesn't conform to R4C even as a total, if you take the entire building area, combining all those lots, doesn't quite even meet a legal R4C parcel. So again, with the problem with fitting in any zoning districts is while the density does comply with an R4E, as I noted, the setbacks do not because they, well, actually, you just look at the way the site, Mary Court is not a public street, so that's not truly a front. They have their front along Mary, and then the rear is to the alley. With an R4E, the rear setback, it's about 30 feet, actually, would be the minimum required. It may be larger based on the length of the building. We do have additional setback requirements for that. The same with the side. The side setback to the north, so the left, basically, if you're looking at the structure right there, it's the side setback to the left. That would be the required one to the north would be, well, it's at least 10 feet is what would be required. I'm trying to look at what our actual requirement here. There is an additional setback.
Yeah, it would turn out to be 16.
Okay, with the additional?
9, given the length of the building.
Okay, thank you. So again, given the length of the building, the additional setbacks, that pushes that setback to 16 feet and the 30 for the rear. So those are like, again, the setback issues that the project does not comply with, as well as a minimum lot size. As I said, R4E at minimum is 14,000 square feet. But again, even if you look to an R4C, that's 8,500 square feet. The parcel doesn't even meet that. As far as affordable housing, as many of you know, is required in many PUDs that exceed the residential density of the highest residential density possible under the master plan, as well as like existing zoning. We look to R4E, multifamily is what the property is zoned. The most intense R4E, the density is 75, I believe, units per acre. And so again, it does not exceed that. So affordable housing would not be required as part of this petition. I think that kind of summarizes up most of, again, well, staff is supportive of the additional density. We were looking to the petitioner, challenging more on other public benefits, or looking to the Planning Commission to possibly expand upon that issue as well. And I'm here for any questions.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Kowalski. And anything to add? All right. Perfect. I just saw that the staff presentation was with also Planner Helen Corcoran. So, all right, great. With that, we're going to go straight into discussion. This doesn't have a public comment component to it. So does any commissioner want to kick us off? Commissioner Weatherby.
Okay, so this is a place I feel quite strongly about, just because these courts are amazing. And I think they're such a cool part of the downtown areas, and there's a few scattered here and there. So when I saw this come up, and this is one I live not too far from here, and until recently voted at the Mary Street polling place, which was right across the street. so when this came up, I was like, oh, well, there goes the court. And then it was like, oh, yay, the court is still there, which I think is awesome. It's great. I think for me, my hesitation is that I wish there was more. I wish that I live in a house similar to these houses. Tearing these houses down for just double, that doesn't seem like quite enough to me. There's not much sustainability features. There's not, it falls a little bit short for me, but I also think it's awesome. So it's kind of it's an uncomfortable spot for me because I wish that I could say, oh, this is just fabulous, and I love that you're keeping the court. That is, I think, really great. I think there are some things, like the porches, great, because that's a big, important part of that court. Are they going to be like porches where you can put chairs or a hammock, or, are they going to be livable porches, or are they just porchlets?
They're 6 feet deep, which is enough for chairs. Like you wouldn't be able to have like a dining table necessarily, but definitely room for chairs and like a little table for
drinks or
for
something.
Iced tea or something.
Iced tea, definitely. So some of the things, so that's good. I did have some things that would help me are like accessibility. You talk about the couple steps up to the porch. It would be nice if, we talk a lot about students, but there are students with disabilities who need mobility aids, and they also deserve to live in new spaces because the old ones are not very accessible. It would be nice if maybe one or two of the units could be fully accessible. Sustainability, things like rooftop solar. We talked about a lot of things about rooftop solar, and it's got good south-facing there. I mean, there's not much in the way at this point. Things like Class A bike parking. I don't know if by bike parking you were just going to put some like bike hoops, but something that's a little more robust, that is, because it is very much not car-centric, and I think it would be great to really promote that and improve upon that. So I think those are some things that just off the bat I am thinking about. Those are my thoughts. So
great, thank you.
Thank you. Who'd like to go next? Commissioner Mills.
Thanks. Similarly, I was curious about what this was going to be, and I think that this is very much like keeping the character and meeting kind of the intent for this area in terms of additional, the fact that it's multifamily units, and that's what kind of we're envisioning for this area. So I think that is really beneficial. I think that the analysis that staff did in terms of doing the comparison and just understanding like what the conflicting land use buffer requirements have and some of the other setbacks, to me, make the case that the only way that we would be able to develop to what our density is either this or through further lot combinations, which are going to lose that character. So I feel like this is a place where it seems like, yes, we don't have a district. We don't have any one zoning classification that would allow for this, which I do think makes a whole lot of sense there. One of the lesser known things, and in terms of public benefits, I'm with you and like thinking about sustainability. I think making those porches usable, really important. I think your comparison on height, I is really useful in the context of it. Also, all of those places, ultimately, the comprehensive plan is calling for increased density in this entire area. Mm-hmm. So I would be okay with starting the trend of another floor. I think that that's not a bad thing. It wouldn't be wildly out of character. It's not like, again, I don't know what the stair requirements are and all of that kind of stuff that we talked about the last time. So, but I think that the idea of like 4 stories here, not crazy. in terms of the public benefits, one of the things that, and this is more of a question for staff potentially, this is currently zoned R4C.
Correct.
And one of the weird things in our code that I know, because I also live in an R4C district in a non-conforming lot, and this is, for people who want to follow along, page 254 of the UDC. If you're in an R4C district and you don't have a big enough lot, you can have a single family home. So like that's the only thing that's developable here, but then you still have to follow the setback placement and height standards of the R1C district. And so that still requires like significant like setbacks, and like the public benefit in my mind is getting some of the stormwater mitigation benefits. There's really nothing, no other way to develop this site. Like you can either just perpetually remodel those units, but then you're not going to be able to achieve the density, or do single family homes. But even then, they're going to be only smaller because then you have to comply actually with the setbacks.
That is correct. Yep, you are correct.
So if you want to do new development to get more bedrooms,
build a single family home.
You can put up a single family home, but those single family homes then have to comply with the setbacks of the R1C, which would not allow them to be as close together as what the current ones are. So this, again, I think that that's a benefit, effectively bringing the site's stormwater up to modern standards is a public benefit that I think that we could take in this. And I don't often say, like, because this is really like a weirdest in the kindest word, like funky kind of set of site conditions. So I would encourage, like, the more that you can do on sustainability, again, making this an amazing court for the next century with building stock that is preparing us for the next century, I think would be huge public benefit. And really, really encourage that. This seems like a place where you could go all electric. Like, I think that seems very doable. And would encourage that. I would also suggest that I think using the stormwater stuff as one of your public benefits, because we can't get that otherwise without gigantic lot combinations. And that would be a significantly different character to that specifically on that court. So
Thank you. Any other commissioners with comments? Oh, Councilmember Dish.
I'm really grateful to my colleagues for going first and saying all those incredibly good and detailed things. So I'm looking at the things that I don't think we need to discuss really anymore the justification for going with a PUD here, because you are doing something that we want, which is you are making an infill project that increases density, and you are maximizing the use of this strange lot. And we actually don't like big setbacks, so it's kind of, it's good what you're doing. So I think that makes me happy, but I'm looking at what I need to look at. And so innovation in land use and variety in design, layout, and type of structures that furthers the stated design goals and physical character of the adopted land use plans and policies. What's nice here actually is that I'm not sure if I would count this as an innovation, but you're taking a really unusual place, as you said, that, for example, we all sort of feel a bit heartsick over Braun Court because it couldn't be built again now, according to our standards, for the same reason that we're looking here. And it's probably not going to be developed it'll be developed with greater density and disruption to that. And so you're doing something here that is neat. You're preserving a form of, it probably was worker housing when it was built. And so I guess it's innovative not to just be, putting a block in there. So economy and efficiency of land use, natural resources, energy. So yeah, the stormwater can go there. The fact that you're maximizing the lot. Provision of open space. So here, You're not doing that. You can't really do that. But you're putting grass where it looks like, I don't know, either there's gravel now or really compacted dirt. But I am wondering if it would, I don't know which would be better, and people should weigh in on this, whether we like more grass or whether we'd like a bigger porch. You know, it might be you can't. Or
one issue is that the city the engineering department requires a 30-foot sewer easement.
There's utilities running through.
So we actually, one of the initial hurdles we kind of dealt with in the design of this was getting the porches out of the easement, the 30-foot wide easement. Because right now, there's a 24-foot sewer easement, and we were hoping, the planning department said they were fine with us sticking to the 24-foot utility easement, but they said it's really the engineering department's call. And we tried really hard to convince the engineering department to let us stick with the 24, and they said absolutely not.
Okay, understood.
It's frustrating because I don't think the 30 feet to me, 30 feet seems excessive.
Yeah. We hear that a lot.
And I would love to be able to stick with the existing 24-foot easement, and that would really give us a lot more flexibility.
Yep, okay. So then I want to second Commissioner Weatherby's suggestion that you consider making one or possibly two, although that's half, of the units fully accessible, so losing those steps, making or again, you can't because that makes it too steep.
Well, the other issue is the bedrooms are all upstairs.
And you're not going to put it in an elevator, right?
So that's one reason. The building code allows this. If you have a traditional apartment tower with an elevator and flats, you have to have a certain number that are accessible. When you have townhomes and there's no bedrooms on the entry floor, you're not required to provide any accessible, and it would be an extreme solution to put in a lift inside the unit.
Right, understand.
And these units the footprints are pretty small.
Right.
And to put a bedroom on the first floor would really make it not work.
Right. Okay. It's good to have these details about our requirements. Not all of us who sit on this board know them as well as we might in another 4 years. So I guess what I would like to ask you to consider some things that wouldn't be very costly. I don't think so. The first thing would be that when you take these houses down, that you work with Habitat for Humanity to salvage as much as can be salvaged. And they would probably need to come in and assess before you rip down to say what is there of value, and then they would probably need to strip it or be there when you start to deconstruct so that they can take the stuff, because there probably isn't much room for on-site sorting, and once you take something down, driving it to a sorting facility, a lot of the materials that could be useful get damaged in that process.
Are you saying that they would bring a truck and we would put the existing stoves and washers and dryers and appliances like that on their truck, offer them parts of the guts of these houses to put on their truck, and just coordinate that with them?
I think that's how it works.
Okay.
So we do not have in Ann Arbor a construction or deconstruction ordinance yet, but Habitat does do that kind of thing. And I don't know if they would want the appliances. I don't know how old they are and how efficient they are, but sometimes they want building materials. Sometimes, there could be, because these are single-family homes, they might be completely trashed. There might be nothing of value in them. But Habitat could come and say to you, oh, we could use this and that, and then they could take it. That would be super. It might take an extra day. I know it's much easier to just whap something down, but that would be great if you would consider talking to them about the logistics, and they may tell you, oh, no, we're not equipped to do that, but my understanding is that they sometimes do that. And so it would be great if you could do that. Another thing would be exploring the possibility of offering compost and recycling for your residents here, because you could do it with carts. You could do it with rolling
Well,
carts.
there is recycling.
Good.
That's
Well,
already happening. And
explore
I know,
the possibility
I've heard the city is planning on providing composting in this neighborhood. It's on their to-do list. Matt might know more about it than I do, but
Actually, I
but the waste management person, I forget his name, told me that it was, there's certain neighborhoods that have composting carts now and certain neighborhoods that don't. This is one neighborhood that doesn't.
Doesn't, yeah.
But they plan on providing that in the future. And it wasn't, he didn't know whether it was like a year away or 5 years
Okay.
away, but it was on their list.
Okay, yeah, that's too bad that it doesn't already.
So we have a dedicated spot for the trash on the east side of the building. So it's going to be a little more organized for a trash area. When we think of composting, we think of students and how disciplined they might be in putting the compost in the right spots to avoid, thank you.
No, you want a bin. I mean, so
We're all
yeah.
about composting,
Right.
but we think of what
Right.
lifestyles are like, and we worry about composting.
So I think probably the best solution now would be, if you're going to have a trash area, save space for 1 or 2 rolling carts for compost, because that is how you would accomplish compost here, is just the way any single family home does, is through a rolling cart. So it would be closed, it would be clear, and it's not provided now, but it is projected. It will be difficult if you don't project space for that now. It would be difficult to make space for it. The students are interested in these things.
You think if they had a real composting bucket accessible in their home, that they might use it properly?
Yeah, and they'll buy that themselves. I mean, you don't have to provide them with countertop compost, but yeah, I think they would. I mean, there's more, and they're doing it, we're doing it on campus all over the place. There's composting, and they know how to throw organic matter into it. So in their own housing. So for you, I think at this stage, it's simply a matter of just creating space for that in your trash area, and maybe having a chat again with the solid waste area folks. Jenny Petoskey often is the person coordinating these services. She could tell you how many bins you might need. I wouldn't think it's more than 2. It might not even be more than 1. Yeah, probably not more than 1. Right, no, they're not. There's definitely not. So those things would be super helpful. And then I just wonder if you want to say a little bit more about how you thought electric could be accomplished without, yes, in order to keep the costs reasonable for the tenants.
You have attached units. Sorry. Oh, no, you're good. I don't know if I jumped the queue too, but if you need more on what we say when we mean all electric, right? Like, generally speaking, students aren't like, they have to have their gas stove. So like electric burners, totally okay. And, but I think that in this, like, it's space heating that would be the thing. And the fact that you have attached units, should be it's doable. And again, there's part of the energy policies that are now in place. There's a whole lot more research on cold weather heat pumps, like, that work in this climate. Again, already it's possible, but sometimes there's an education gap between when you're talking to your HVAC contractor about that. I see that would be a huge benefit and able to show that this is the public benefit in making this possible for the future. So solar, you have a south-facing roof there too, with, I don't know what it would look like because of the kind of bump ups, or like whatever those things are called.
Dormers.
Dormers, thank you. It's late for me. I don't know whether there's enough space for solar there, but even if not, like the exploring it will certainly offset that. And again, there's more rebates that are available now than there were before. Adding that on is a lot easier, but I think that there's little reason why you couldn't electrify the heating here. Especially and you don't have so many units that there should be a limitation on the grid. I'm imagining, but this is one of the things that you need to plan for when you're kind of thinking about that. But you're gonna, you need a bigger service anyway because you've got not 4 units anymore, right? So that's what you meant by kind of being clear about what I meant by electrification.
Thank you. Any other commissioners with comments? Commissioner Weich.
So one, thanks for bringing this to us. 2, thanks for doubling the density for R4C to what this PUD is going to be. I want to echo my colleague, Commissioner Mills, and say, let's go 4 stories. That would be my recommendation here. I don't think it changes too much in the neighborhood in terms of the character of it. And then rooftop solar, which we've talked about, I think it would be worthwhile exploring whether you could do a corner unit that does have an accessible one to meet the sort of requirements for the PUD. And then I have questions for staff that I can ask now or I can ask during commissioner proposed business, because this is another R4E potential that we can't do because of, wait, let me get it, table 7 or 517-3 and the footnotes A, B, and D in this case, because it's the height, it's the length of the building, and there's parking that's in there, and it's like, can we just strike these so that, because this feels onerous to have to do this PUD, but given the minimum lot size, like do we actually have options where we can say this? I agree that it's so complicated, it does need its own PUD, but it feels like we have something that's close enough, but then we have all these restrictions because of the setback. And we are the body, right? So we could propose to get rid of these.
Yeah, yes,
right?
I mean, that would take a longer process, of course,
Okay,
but yes,
all right.
we can't do that necessarily right
Well,
here.
this is the second one.
But you're correct, in very similar, the last week or month, whatever it was, the 1146 South Maple PUD, again, that was a setback issue as well.
Setbacks.
Because of the additional length and in height of the building. Those are kind of remnants of our older planning codes where the conflicting land use buffers came out, we've separating things, we want more setbacks. It may be worth it, but again, that commission has to direct us, ultimately council, we can pursue something.
Onerous for us to put this all on you when the things that you are proposing are the things that we want, but the code won't allow you to actually do it, even though we want it, and it's our intention to have the buildings closer to the road to maximize the density, especially in this area, as the land use says, and to achieve some of these goals. But our planning documents are behind our intention and our desires, and so sorry you have to go through this. So come back with another story, put some solar in, consider an accessibility unit maybe on a corner as a way to achieve some of the PUD requirements, because it does actually require that you meet certain community benefits, and so we'll need to articulate that. I think the stormwater is one, as Commissioner Mills or others have already articulated, that you should highlight, given that there's none that's there, and then see if you can do something with those porches, maybe structure them in such a way that they could be hammock ready or something along those lines. I'm just reaching here because I would want this to be easier, but it's not.
Max Kelly.
To that point, these are not forgotten items. They're not only brought up in the context of an eventual item in your work program, but I think you may recall from our meeting on May 7th that these are in a special group that is being tackled through the comprehensive plan. Actually, Planner Kowalski and I were in some working groups just last week related to simplification concepts for our zoning districts, which will be discussed soon, maybe as soon as, I'm not sure the agenda yet for next Tuesday, but I would encourage those who feel sympathetic to this and would really like to see changes to lot sizes or setbacks to ask about that particular item during the subcommittee meeting, and to look for, all of the steering committee meetings have now been made into public Zoom meetings. So please look for these items to come through the comprehensive plan process. They are actively being workshopped. I just wanted to mention that they're not on an eventual list. They have active attention being given to them right now.
Thank you. Commissioner Adams.
I'll try to make my comments brief because I think they're probably going to be unhelpful to you and you should probably ignore them. Unlike some of my other commissioners, one of the things I kept thinking about as we're going through and I'm listening to the comments about solar and electric and heat pumps and layering on all these sustainability elements, I actually think your project as proposed probably complies and is approvable as a PUD. And we have a project going in across the street, across State Street, that's going to be much taller, I'm guessing more expensive. That's just a guess. I'm not an expert in how these things are priced. I'm thinking about this project as a market rate project that could fill a different price point in the market, right across the street, different type of building, different location, maybe a different type of student renter. And what I would hate to do is layer on so many sustainability elements to it to get it through this process that it becomes not equivalently expensive, but less affordable. Affordability is also part of the calculus here. So we don't have affordability requirements that apply. I can't get that affordability by law. So I'd hate to lose incrementally as we tack on, I'm one vote, right? You get my vote without adding the additional things. You might not get some other votes on the table. That's why I'm telling you might want to ignore what I'm saying. But my own perspective on this is that I'd like to see a balance, but I don't want to see a project come back that won't do that, right? Because then I've got that across the street. I might have some very high-end apartments and some affordability and some sustainability and all those things. The kitchen sinks across the street. Maybe this project is different, and maybe that's okay.
Good. No, I appreciate that.
Thank you. Commissioner Hammerschmidt.
I'm kind of glad you talked before I talked because I think that's a really interesting point. So I really like this project. I wish you didn't have to come for PUD. Like, I wish this was going to be hard. We are looking for some sort of public benefit. I guess I would like to see you, and I was going to harp on the solar and the investigate geothermal and make it all electric. I mean, even if you could investigate it and come back to us and let us know the financial feasibility, to Commissioner Adams' point. If that would kill the project and make these rents so exorbitantly expensive that it's not helping the students in the city that need places to live, we need to understand that. But to Commissioner Mill's point, there are rebates and tax incentives and all of those things for geothermal, for heat pump water heaters, for solar, for battery storage. So I really encourage you to investigate that because I do think that would help push this a little bit more with the public benefits. These are really narrow units. You can't fit an elevator. I think the only way you could do it is combine two into one because there's just not enough space. But for visitability, I love the front porches. I love that. I think it's really going to help maintain this sense of community within this court, especially adding double the number of residents. Maybe provide access to a portable ramp or something that people could use if somebody that's coming to visit them wants to be able to access the house because it's only a couple of steps and you don't need a very long ramp for that. Yeah, I really like this. I don't think, the extra floor, that's just more stairs for people to go up to have to access their bedrooms. You guys probably understand the market better. If 6 bedrooms would rent as easily as 4 bedrooms, I don't know. I think it's good as is. And yeah, I'm sorry, you have to try to find more public benefits, but just really investigate some of these energy efficiency, electrification, sustainability measures as you continue forth in this process. Thank you. I love the design too. I love the layout. I love everything.
Thank you. Yeah.
Sorry.
Kowalski.
Could I just add one other item? And it may be relevant at this point because it seems like commission is going in a certain direction. But one of the things I did want to point out earlier as well as we're looking at those existing lots, that right now there are four of those parcels. Only one of them is slightly bigger than 2,000 square feet. So another consideration in here is that basically anything they would do to those existing buildings would trigger zoning board of appeals approval for non-conforming structures. And our non-conforming language specifically states that you can't do anything to alter or prolong the life of a non-conforming structure. So again, it seems like the commission in general is favorable for this PUD, but I think that that's another relevant consideration because it's something that we looked at as staff is how can you can't really do anything with the existing buildings. You certainly can't add on, they're small, I mean the lots, there's nowhere to go. So, but interior, a lot of the other issues would trigger zoning board of appeals, which again is a process, they may or may not get approved.
Got it, understood.
On behalf of staff and the department, I also just want to point out that John Barrett, our zoning coordinator, is actively working on updating our non-conforming sections of the UDC. So again, this is not something where we're throwing our hands up in the air. There's active work behind the scenes. It just takes some time.
Thank you. Any other commissioners with comments? Does the petitioner think they have sufficient feedback from the commission at this point?
Yeah, I feel like we got really good feedback tonight. I appreciate it. I don't know if you have any other comments, Brad?
No, thank you.
Got it. Well, no, I appreciate everyone's comments. I will just add one thing would be the visitability component. If you couldn't necessarily do ADA, but having restrooms on the first floor that's accessible with sufficient turning radius, handlebars, et cetera, that provides at least an evidence. They might not be able to live there, right, because the bedroom's on the second floor, but you know, they can come over at least, right? Or having closer access for whether it's a stroller with a baby or something along those lines. So I don't know exactly how the layouts, but do you guys have restrooms on that first floor?
No, we don't have the powder room is in the basement.
Gotcha, not necessarily going to have it.
And these units are very
narrow,
tiny, and there wasn't even space for the powder room on the first floor.
Gotcha. It is a unique, constrained site, so we certainly understand that. Again, innovation in land use efficiency. We've covered a lot of these items, but looking at the land use element of 2009, the master plan does call for multiple family. I think we also had mentioned that there's a big 17-story. I think that was 17, 15 possibly going in. So
and all those units are going to be visitable, and
right.
A decent percent will be ADA compliant.
Yeah, and I'll just echo some of the comments saying that 4 stories really isn't out of the question. It's not, 918, I think State Street, just kind of on that alleyway is also 4 stories as well. But again, incremental change. And then, I will, hopefully this is sufficient feedback for the group.
Yeah.
Right. If anyone thinks of anything, just send over your ideas.
Yeah, sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, wait, Councilmember Dish.
Had you thought of 4 stories, or is there a reason you didn't?
Yeah, and I think it was more about, we did think about it, and it was combination of 4 stories would basically be a 6-bedroom unit. And there's some desirability from a renting point of view to rent 4 bedrooms easier than 6 bedrooms. And also the scale. It just felt like
the court.
I mean, I appreciate, and I think it was Sarah's comment that, a lot of these existing structures that are there now are going to be gone in the next 20 years. So maybe being contextual with what's there now is questionable, but we felt like we definitely want to be contextual. And 4 stories just felt like kind of crossing the line a little bit because nothing really is 4 stories right around there.
Got it. I tend to agree with you, just having been there in undergrad on Mary Court. So, and walking by it
you
to
lived
the.
on Mary Court?
No, I've been to a few.
Get-togethers.
Yeah, composting. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Iced tea. Yeah, sure. Passing by. on my way to the IM building to play squash. So let me clarify that. And so, no, just, yeah, the 4 stories relative to the overall dimensions kind of does make sense. So overall seems to be in support. But that being said, please do be mindful that this is going to last, 100 years, right? And so looking to the future to say, hey, what is a sustainable future? And really looking at, seriously some of the sustainability components of, true sustainability is full electrification, full renewables. So as we try to move towards that, right, obviously that will be a public benefit. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much, everybody.
All right, we're going to move on to public comment. This is a second opportunity for persons to speak up to 3 minutes about any issue. We'll first call on individuals present to address the commission, then remote participants. To speak during this public hearing remotely, please press *9 if listening by phone, or use the raise hand feature if viewing through the web link. For phone access, please call 877-853-5247 and enter meeting ID 977-6634-1226. City staff will select callers that have raised their hand using the last 3 digits of the phone number or by name if available. You'll hear an automated announcement saying that the host is allowing you to speak, and when speaking, please move to a quiet area, mute any background noises so we can hear you clearly. For either method of participation, please state your name and address at the beginning of your comments. Is there anybody present that would like to speak at this time?
Thanks, Charlie. Ken Garber again. This question of affordability versus sustainability seems to have arisen in the context of this pre-PUD discussion, and I think it's a red herring. A mini split or VRF high efficiency heat pump does cost more upfront than a standard gas burning furnace. But remember that the heat pump doubles as an air conditioner as well. It cools the building. There's no spending on the air conditioner. The solar panels also pay for themselves in a fairly short period of time, also with the rebates that Commissioner Mills was talking about in terms of lower utility bills, more appealing to renters, or to the building owner if they choose to pay the utilities. The real issue, I talk to developers about this stuff, and the real issue to them is not so much the dollar cost, but it's cultural. And especially subcontractors don't like to necessarily work with heat pumps. They're not used to it. Often they will bid them higher than working with conventional HVAC because as a way to avoid this sort of job. But it's not because it can't be done equally affordably. It's all this other stuff. It's because we're just not used to doing this in Southeast Michigan. There's whole regions of the country where this is absolutely standard, especially along the coasts, including in cold weather areas in the Northeast. Here in Ann Arbor, we have the benefit of people wanting to build here. And we also have a climate action plan that basically says everything should be not just all electric, but net zero energy starting in 2022. So already 2 years behind that timeline. So this is something that, we obviously shouldn't coerce people into doing it, but certainly in a PUD situation like this, it already has become pretty standard. And with buildings like the North Maple apartments, which are including affordable housing as well as going all electric and on-site solar. So I just hope we don't regress from the standard that we have set, which, as I said in my earlier remarks, is really minimal. I think we should be going for passive house construction and net zero, and that's in the 820 plan. Again, we heard from Tim McDonald at that Joint Energy Commission Planning Commission meeting in September 2022, that this is absolutely compatible with affordability. This can be done, is being done elsewhere. We have to do it here too. And I guess I have 5 seconds left, so I would just say thank you for all your work. I really appreciate it, and have a good night.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak at this time? Seeing no one else, do we have any remote callers?
There are currently no remote attendees.
All right, thank you. All right, with that, I'm going to close public comment. Moving on to agenda item 12, commission proposed business. Is there any Commission proposed business. Ms. Kelly.
I just had a quick clarification from earlier in the meeting when Mr. Bing from Ann Arbor Public Schools stated that they had a site plan in with the city. That was not for the properties that were presented today. For example, 2862 Stone School and 3801 Stone School don't. However, 2800 Stone School does have an in-process review. So I think perhaps there was just a point of confusion because the addresses are similar. But it is 2800, Mr. Kowalski
correct.
informs me, is an existing school site.
Correct, that's
and so
the existing school. It's adjacent, but it's to the north, it's a separate parcel.
So unless something went awry in our permitting software, the properties that you saw tonight do not have a site plan unbeknownst to your staff.
I may miss some things, but I don't hopefully miss that.
Thank you. Commissioner Mills.
I was going to have commission proposed business about reviewing when site plans come before us, but I don't need to do that because that is in one of the numbered things from council. So we will get to that. And it actually appears in there a couple of times. I know occasionally the legislative agenda does come before us, and I do think that this idea of a single stair access has come up multiple times. And so I don't know when the city council passes that legislative agenda that they give to the lobbyists, but if we can note that, and it doesn't go on our work plan, but if you're able to pass that along to the appropriate staff who lead that would be, as a planning commission thing, be helpful. And let them know that we would be, I would suggest that maybe when they do come up with their legislative agenda, I don't think we see it every single year, but I think it's been a bit since we've seen it. And so I personally would be interested in seeing that so we can chime in on the things that we can lobby Lansing on to allow us to do the sort of things that we regularly say we want to be able to do.
Thank you. Any other commission proposed business? Seeing none, just want to say welcome to Cecile. Thank you so much for joining us and helping this great department. So with that, I'm going to move to adjournment. Moved by Commissioner Mills, seconded by Commissioner Abrams. All those in favor say aye. 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 We are adjourned.